goodness.
Yeah. Cancun, here I come.
Oh, I love destination.
When you going to Cancun?
June. He's getting married.
It'll be a little toasty down there then.
Yeah, but, well, we're trying to plan it all around his
Double vision
sister's
comes back
schedule.
down there,
but now
too.
she-
Well, you'll have some double vision down there because
Well, we planned
because
it
of
all around his
tequila.
sister's school schedule. On the mic, right? Yeah, I'll explain.
Right.
I would like to call the March 9th meeting of the zoning commission to order. Will you call the roll, please?
Mr. King?
Here.
Mr. Sable?
Here.
Mrs. Malloy?
Here.
Mr. Cott?
Here.
Mr. Creedy?
Here.
Our first order of business is to approve the minutes from the February 10th, 2016 meeting. Do I have a motion to do that?
I'll make a motion to approve February 10th.
Mr.
Second.
Creedy?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Sable?
Yes.
Mrs. Malloy?
Abstain.
Mr. Cott?
Yes.
Motion carries. There does not appear to be any items of old business on the agenda, and we have one item of new business, which is a text amendment change regarding Article 25, the conditional use of the zoning commission handbook, and I'm going to let Darrell explain.
Okay. Sylvania Township Zoning Department staff is requesting an amendment to Article 25, conditional uses of the Sylvania Township zoning resolution. This amendment would require that all conditional use requests before the Sylvania Township Board of Zoning Appeals be heard first by the Lucas County Plan Commission. The exception to this review would be a requested conditional use for a home occupation. Each zone district has its own set of permitted uses and conditional uses as prescribed within the zoning resolution. Some of the conditional uses can be rather intensive, and the BZA has heard some cases that could have benefited from further review and analysis. It would be advantageous to have the Plan Commission review and make a recommendation on these cases prior to the BZA hearing. This would be essentially the same process as a zone change request. The additional review would afford the public another opportunity to express their questions or concerns, as well as provide an additional set of eyes and ears on the case. The BZA would still make the final decision as to approval, denial, or approval with conditions on the requested use. Home occupations are generally a less intense use, and staff feels that the extra review of this type of conditional use is not warranted and would be an unnecessary constraint on the applicant. The Lucas County Plan Commission unanimously recommended approval of the requested text amendment on February 24th, 2016. Sylvania Township zoning staff recommends approval of the proposed text amendment as shown in Exhibit A. And that reads, all requests for a conditional use, with the exception of home occupation, shall be reviewed by the Lucas County Plan Commission prior to the Board of Zoning Appeals public hearing. The above application for conditional use will be forwarded to the Plan Commission by the Township Planning and Zoning Department. The Planning Commission shall hold a public hearing on the proposed conditional use and recommend approval or denial of the said use, or approval with conditions, and submit its recommendation to the Township Board of Zoning Appeals. When received, such recommendation shall then be considered at a public hearing held by the Board of Zoning Appeals on said proposed use.
Are there any questions for Darrell about this? So basically, this is just another sort of check and balance in the system.
Right.
So the ultimate authority still lies with the township, but it just gives another point of view for them to consider.
Right. We had, as you know, a couple rather intense, high-profile conditional uses in the past year. The trustees were looking at another level, another way of
Just providing input.
Pardon?
Providing input.
Right. The public providing input as well as any other testimony that might be useful as far as, say, county engineers or whoever. And just giving it a whole nother level, another set of eyes and ears, as I said in the staff.
Well, I think too, we mentioned the residential care facilities. We've been seeing a lot of those, and some of those have been using conditional use permits. So I think, they were skipping a lot of the county stuff by doing that. So this maybe helps with some site plans and other things that they could get around. But
Right, and we did, initially we thought, well, okay, just all conditional uses could go down to the Plan Commission, but then it's like, well, fair amount of the conditional uses are the home occupation, the person that's cutting hair in their basement, or somebody that's doing taxes in their home, or something like that, and it's like, well, we don't really want to run them through the gauntlet and then the extra expense just for the home occupation.
So out of this list that you gave us,
I believe there's
13 of them, there's 2 of them wouldn't have gone down, and the rest of them
I
would.
think there's 11 there. Those were all approved conditional uses in the past 5 years, and I believe 3 of them are home occupations.
Yeah, 3 of them are. Yeah.
Yes. So, about a quarter of them.
And this, everything for the, not a lot of them, basically, over the last couple of years.
Right.
It's not a big deal.
Right, this isn't something that's necessarily going to be happening every month, or, I mean, you might only get 2 or 3 a year, if
Okay.
even that.
Once a conditional use is given, if they change the conditional use for what they came in for, do they have to come back in and reapply?
We actually had that last year. We had a couple of, well, 3 of them, because there's one that was denied, but those last 2 were amendments to an original conditional use.
So the business owner or homeowner has to come in. We don't go out and say, hey, you're changing the use you told us you were using it for.
Right. I mean, for example, the one on 3130 Holland, Sylvania, that is the Burger King down the street. That's actually zone C4 office. Restaurant is a conditional use in a C4. They received that conditional use in 85, 86, something like that. One of the conditions at that time was that they could not access Waldemar Drive. Well, then when ODOT did this project out here last year at Holland, Sylvania
cut 'em off?
Central, Burger King feels that's hurt them. They want an access drive onto Waldemar, so they needed to come back and get the original conditional use amended.
I have a question.
Sure.
In the event that the planning commission denies whatever they're asking for, and it comes forward, will it take a unanimous vote from the Board of Zoning Appeals to overturn that, or is that just nothing more than a recommendation?
It's just a recommendation. I would still be the majority vote.
They would probably just add conditions that they would like to see if it goes through, I would guess.
You
They
mean
don't
the
really-
plan commission?
Yeah, they wouldn't take a vote on it really, right? They would just say, this is what we would recommend.
Right, well, they still vote on, it, just like with the
Oh, they
zone
do?
change, they vote, but it's a recommendation.
But basically, it's their sort of process. The staff reviews it, recommends to that board, they vote, comes here, you would write a recommendation, come to this board, not this board, but the
Right.
variance board considers all of that, makes a decision, and then it still goes to the trustees.
Well, no,
Conditional use
a
doesn't.
conditional use would not go to the
It
trustee.
would go to the trustees, but they would have more input then.
Right.
And on this last one that we just did, they had to reapply for the conditional use because they were adding or doing work to that building, right?
The one on Whiteford?
Yeah, the way I read
Yeah.
the rules, like you couldn't make an addition or remodel without,
Right, well, yeah, and also they were acquiring the property at 5803 Whiteford, which was zoned, I don't recall what the zoning was, but it was a single-family residential. So they would need to get the conditional use.
Yeah, 'cause we changed
to
the- we
apply to
changed
that
the
one
zone.
as well,
Right.
pending the zone change approval, which was approved. Yeah, we did that one just to kind of clean everything up. Their original conditional use was back in 59 or something like that, and the address was different, the wording was, it was called, what was it called back then? Do you remember what that word was? Sanitarium, that's what it was. And then they came back for something, they amended the, I think because there's a property owner change or something, they amended the conditional use in, it was the 90s or early 2000s. Again, different address numbers, and they were calling it a nursing home then. And so we felt just to kind of clean it up with today's language, and 20 years from now, there'll probably be another term for it, but we call them residential care facilities now, and to include all the address, the current addresses, as well as the one that they're acquiring to get the zone change in. That's probably a lot longer answer than what you're looking for.
no, because part of me thought, well, God, maybe these guys should be going for a C2 or, something else with the dialysis center and other things. Well, like you said, at least I read through some rules that, if you were adding on to the building, you needed to reapply, and I just want to make sure we keep, if they have to stick to that everybody that's under conditional use, that's making changes, maybe with no complaints, that they're still abiding by the same rules.
Right.
I have another thing. My concern is at one time, Lucas County Planning Commission wanted to have a control over the township. They would make the decisions, and then the township would go with it, and that all backfired. In the event a Board of Zoning appeal item goes in front of them, and they place restrictions, or they add things to it, and say you have to do this, 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 perhaps neighbors go down, and they see it necessary to put restrictions on it. When that comes forward, all those restrictions are an opinion and recommendation. That's
Right,
not,
it would be only
nothing
be
is
a
binding.
recommendation. It would,
Okay.
the BZA would be under no
Obligation?
obligation to have those conditions on the approval.
But the BZA would have the authority to then say, we want you to do these changes?
They
Or
can.
part of it?
Yes.
I mean, look at Kroger's on Seacourt. The planning commission said no to it, and city council tried to say yes, and it got shot. So,
Are there any other questions or any public comment on this item? If there's nothing else, we didn't do a motion. Okay, do I have a motion to approve this change?
I would so move.
We have a motion,
no second it.
we'll have a second. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Sable?
Yes.
Mr. Cott?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Creedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Sommerville?
Yes, motion carries. Is there anything else for the good of the order?
I do have two little things I want to bring up. I was at the Ohio Township Association conference end of January, and one of the sessions, workshops, whatever you want to call it, that I went to for zoning boards, the person speaking made two recommendations, and I'm just going to throw them out here and see what you guys think. One is that because the chairperson exercises so much influence on the proceedings, that they should vote last. They should be called last on the polling. Yeah, again, this isn't something we have to do or even have to decide tonight. I'm just throwing it out there for food for thought. And then the second.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, sure.
And then, Val, when you call the roll, do you call it the same way all the time, or is there a rotating order?
Whoever makes the motion and seconds, I do that first, and then I vote on
Okay. Because I know sometimes boards will do like a rotating order, starting with a different person each time. So, just curious how we did it.
You're talking like a tiebreaker.
Well, no, I guess he just felt that it gives the chairperson too much, there may be other members that are straddling the fence on the vote, and then when they hear how the chair votes, that it would sway their opinion. So this way, if you have the chair vote last, that's not going to happen.
Okay.
I don't have an opinion of it one way or another. I'm just.
Yeah, because it's always kind of moved by depending on who makes our motion in second. You know what I mean? And Mary has traditionally not, if there's no motion, let's really feel strongly, has
Yeah,
kind of
I
waited to
make
let
mine.
us, you don't,
I don't make motions.
the chairperson usually doesn't make the motion, she waits to see, to get it going. So, yeah, I don't know, I've never heard that before, really, though.
I've heard of rotating the
Oh,
order.
yeah.
Quite honestly.
Yeah,
Sometimes the president of some boards is the tie vote,
Yeah.
they don't vote.
Either way, doesn't matter.
Okay, what was the second thing?
The second one is, he seemed to feel that staff should not put a recommendation on their staff report, that again, it can sway the board. That we should do a staff report with the analysis, give you all the facts and figures, the whole deal, but no recommendation.
Yeah, I like the recommendation.
And does that come from the Township Planning Commission also? Because they're giving us usually a recommendation. Does he want to see both of those go away?
He was talking about township.
Just the township staff?
Again, I don't really, doesn't matter to me.
Well, no, I mean,
I guess
one
one
thing-
way I could do it too is not put a recommendation in the staff report that I send out to you, but at the meeting, then give one, or,
I like it in the report, to be honest.
Okay.
And I think, the one thing we have to...
I mean, that's just
process-
really a staff's opinion. If we
Yeah.
don't like it,
Yeah,
we
we can
still
say
have
no.
our free
I mean,
choice.
different people have said no to different things. I mean,
Right.
the thing I would note is that, there are different types of townships. Even within the Toledo area here, Sylvania Township can't be compared to, many of the other townships.
Spencer.
Yeah. Let's just be honest.
You don't want to name names.
Yeah. We just,
Yeah.
we're very different than, a lot of townships, so I just would say.
I think it's important that you put an opinion in.
Yeah.
Because unless we drive to this place and all we're going to do is stand there and look at the property and we have a plan in front of us, you're dealing with these people and you could be dealing with them for a year. And you know all the aspects and all the issues and all the problems. I ran into a situation as a zoning inspector. Someone came in and spoke took a position, and they took action without getting all the facts. No one ever asked, well, what did you do? What is your side of it? They never did. They just made the motion, now it's stuck. You have to do that, I think, because you may say, well, I approve this, but you may have something else to put in there that we need to know. You're going to tell us at that night anyway, because
And the public's going to be here if they have an opinion that they disagree with Darrell, I think. You know what I mean?
And the applicant, I always send the staff report out to them as well, so even if I'm recommending denial of a zone change or whatever, they're going to see it in advance and have
There's
time
never
to
been a
prepare.
shortage of strong opinions on this board, so.
And the reality here is that we can read this book inside and out, and we can do our due diligence, and we can try our dead level best to be very informed and try to help make a decision. The reality is, we all have day jobs. So we're doing this on a part-time oversight basis, whereas the staff here, this is what you do. It's what you're trained in, schooled in, and experienced with. So I know personally, I rely on that recommendation also.
right?
But we also kind of, it's not just a rubber stamp thing. I don't think anyone on this board, or anyone I've mostly seen on this board, we always chew things over pretty good. So,
And if you ever said, I recommend you disapprove, well, I'm going to know why. What's happened? What's wrong? If the planning commission says, oh, it's good, then you say, I don't think it is a good idea. I want to know why you're saying that. That's important. And if you have that written out, that's even better.
Okay, these are just foods for thought.
And then the other thing you said, we would have a meeting next month and you'd like to do the training session?
Yes, I have to get with Mr.
So you'll
Burrell on
let us
that and
know?
remind him that we were talking about the first meeting in April.
Okay.
Try and get
Anybody have a problem? Sounds good.
Is that what this is for?
I guess we could have waited a month and given it to you.
No, I'm glad you did. I don't want to read it.
If there is no other item of business, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second, call the roll, please.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. King?
yes.
Mr. Hunt?
Yes.
Yes. Meeting adjourned.
This looks interesting.
You think?
I think I'm going to take this.
You're sick, Bob.
I think I'm going to take it. No, I think I'm
Well, you could have put that in a little binder for us real quick? I mean,
Are we
this is
all
going to get
done?
this is going to get scattered all over my living room table.
Actually, we also have a PDF. I'll send that out to you tomorrow.